Some people ask you when you call, where are you from? When once you say I'm from Cameroon, somebody will just even drop the call without even continue to talk to you.
I've never met an Italian who said, I'm looking for a house. But I know a lot of black guys who are still looking for houses.
Like many a times when you tell them, okay, we are from India, we speak a little bit of Italian, and then they will never message back.
When I turned to the real estate agent, the question was always the same. What kind of job do you do? How long have you been here in Italy? Show us your pay slips, your documents.
If you are a migrant yourself, have a migratory background, or know individuals who have experienced this, you may have encountered housing discrimination. Welcome to Opening the Door podcast, produced by Come Home, an EU-funded project dedicated to promoting equality in cities, with a focus on access to housing for individuals with a migratory background. My name is Paula Ceremedis. I am the program manager at the major development agency in Thessaloniki, and I will be your host for the next 5 episodes on this podcast. Housing discrimination is not just a barrier to finding a place to live. It's a multifaceted issue that deeply affects individuals based on their gender, ethnic origin, sexual orientation, age, and disability. This form of discrimination does more than just limit a migrant's access to housing. It weaves into the very fabric of their lives, impacting their ability to integrate into new communities and live as any other citizen, thereby profoundly influencing their overall quality of life. In this episode, we will explore the experiences of individuals from migratory backgrounds with housing discrimination in Turin, Thessaloniki, and Malta. By hearing the stories of these individuals alongside insights from experts in the field, we'll try to understand the various forms of housing discrimination, recognize the critical role of housing in one's overall integration into a city, and discover how data can be used as a starting point to combat and alleviate such discrimination. People migrate due to a variety of reasons and motivations. Some might look for better job opportunities. Others might pursue educational goals or better living conditions and lifestyle. Or some leave their home countries due to safety concerns.
I hoped to find a better life, to have a home, and to find work. Also for my family.
I came here when I was almost 18. I came here to pursue my bachelor's, and now I'm doing my master's here in Politecnico di Torino.
I'm originally from Ukraine. I've been in Malta for 10 years already, since 2014, when everything actually started in Ukraine. We decided that we have to move for the sake of our children.
I was driven by the desire to come to a beautiful, quiet city, a place where no one can disturb you. I hoped to live quietly with a job.
Actually, I didn't really come to Thessaloniki because I took a personal decision to come to Thessaloniki. I came to Thessaloniki because I was transferred from the camp. When I came to Thessaloniki, I was hoping to find a better job and learn also Greek.
The first time I came here to Italy, I was with my sister. Then I moved to Turin for both study and work reasons. I wanted to come and experience a new life here. I wanted to leave my family to come here to have this experience, to live alone in Europe and Italy.
Regardless of the reasons and motivations behind an individual migrating, the expectations often differ significantly from the reality encountered in the new cities. These disparities may sometimes stem from how a person might have envisioned their lives in the new country.
At the beginning, I expected that studying here would be easy, that I would learn the language immediately and then I would immediately find a job. I thought to myself, maybe I can earn even better than in Morocco. In short, I thought a lot, but then I realized that it's not always like this. It's not always all roses and flowers, obviously. There are difficulties here in Europe too, in Italy, especially for migrant people.
Anyone who comes from outside, and obviously they feel a little bit into themselves, they'll be into themselves because they don't know a lot of people. They don't know how the society works, how the culture works, what are the things they should know. So yeah, that's the thing which I faced when I first came here. And it was different from my mindset because I thought everything is gonna be smooth, but that's not how things are, right? So yeah.
I was the head of legal department in the bank. And actually all my life, I used to work as a lawyer. And unfortunately, once we arrived here in Malta, I understood my Ukrainian legal background not really useful here. So I had to look for something else or something similar that I can work in the same field. You know, when you in your country and you had such a great position as I had, for example, coming in another country, it's like start from the beginning.
Often, the reality for people with migratory backgrounds not only vastly differs from how they imagined their new lives would be, but also encompasses several challenges that hinder their effective inclusion into a city and a country. This is particularly evident when it comes to accessing basic rights and services, and above all, decent and affordable housing.
Finding a house was very difficult. I searched for a house for almost 2 years, and I had a small daughter who was 2-3 months old. It really made my life so much worse because I slept at a friend's house on the sofa bed with my daughter. It was a very bad situation.
I was trying to move to Turin and I did not find any house. So for first few months, I could not come to the classes every day because I have an appointment at 10 to go see the house, otherwise someone else takes it. So throughout my 24 hours of a day, this is what I'm doing. So there's no time to, play any sport, meet with friends. It's really a full-time job. Finding an apartment is a full-time job. But it's affecting a lot of people in their daily life.
The house I'm living is not that good, but I cannot change because of the fear of finding another one will be another problem. But going to look for another place is like a nightmare still. So it really affected me negatively.
Some of my friends that they lost their hope to find apartment in the city center and they went like to Policastro because they didn't find.
If I can't get residency, I also lose the right to apply for Italian citizenship. So for me, it was a matter of life or death. If a person comes here to Italy and cannot find a home, how can they work or study? And then, when they go to renew their documents, they may ask where they live. And you can't live like this. That's it. If you don't have a house, you have nothing. Many of my fellow compatriots struggles to find rentals because they tell me they won't rent to us because we're foreigners. We are Moroccans. So they won't rent to us. So those who don't find a house to rent may find themselves going to hotels or when they're lucky to social housing or somewhere with a friend. But I believe that there cannot be integration of a person in Italy without a home because you're alive. But at the same time, you're a ghost. You don't exist anywhere. You're not a resident. No one knows you, so there's no integration.
From my experience, the things I've seen around me, I don't think it's easy. It's not easy at all. Like once you start facing discrimination on a daily basis, or even if it happens even once, it's gonna stay in your mind forever. You'll feel ashamed sometimes. You'll feel scared sometimes. Inside you won't be the same. Once you are not the same, maybe you're not focusing on your education anymore because you're feeling bad inside. So from one thing, it leads to another and then leads to another. I know a lot of people, they just don't go out. They don't socialize. But why? Because they feel it's not the same for them as it was in their own country. They don't feel the same.
As you have heard, the stories, although different, follow a similar pattern. Lack of access to housing does not only impact one's housing access, but it impacts every aspect of one's life and their integration into a city. Francesca Pisano, program manager at the Danish Refugee Council in Italy, discusses the critical role of housing for people with migratory backgrounds and its impact on their integration and overall equality in urban environments.
For many, securing housing isn't merely about finding shelter. It represents the very essence of belonging in a new city. However, discriminatory practices often emerge as formidable obstacles, depriving them of the chance to establish roots and fully integrate into their new communities. EU countries like Italy, Greece, and Malta are known for their initial assistance to migrant populations. Yet they often fall short in ensuring long-term inclusion and meeting basic rights, such as access to accommodation. Building a life in a foreign land is a multi-year endeavor, reliant on a complex web of relationships, opportunities, and connections. Intersectional discrimination, particularly within housing systems, plays a big role, but can still remain latent and difficult to grasp. Furthermore, access to housing profoundly influences one's integration into a new city and has broader implications for equality within urban landscapes. Research reveals that discriminatory practices in housing disproportionately impact individuals with migratory background, hindering their ability to secure stable housing and thereby impeding their social and economic inclusion. This perpetuates marginalization and undermines fundamental principles of equality and justice within cities. Housing discrimination is often simplistically equated with racism, yet the reality is more nuanced. Understanding the underlying drivers of discrimination can lead to the adoption of more effective tools and strategies, potentially addressing other forms of discrimination as well.
But what exactly can we consider as housing discrimination? Housing discrimination refers to the unjust and differential treatment experienced by people with a migratory background, including regular migrants and naturalized migrants, in accessing decent and affordable housing. However, there is no standard form for how discrimination can occur, as it can manifest in a variety of ways and affect a wide range of individuals. Some individuals might encounter deceit regarding the availability of housing.
I had this Italian friend who accompanied me to an appointment, and my friend told me to stay outside and not enter the agency. He went in, they showed him the house, all the videos, and then the following week I went alone to talk and they told me that the house was no longer available.
Sometimes they tell you there's no house. Meanwhile, you just talked maybe 30 minutes ago with the same person. And when they meet me personally, he will tell you there's no house. There's no house.
One might experience phone hang-ups or find themselves being unexpectedly ignored or so-called ghosted.
Some people ask you when you call, where are you from? When once you say I'm from Cameroon or I'm from Africa, somebody will just even drop the call without even continue to talk to you. Like, huh? How about you?
Like many a times when you tell them, okay, we are from India, we speak a little bit of Italian, and then they will never message back. And maybe it's because we're Indians, because of the culture, the heritage that we come from. But it was never clear to me, like, what's the reason for not even saying no?
Some might feel overlooked or ignored compared to their local counterparts.
The last experience I had was so difficult. Through a real estate agency in 2023. I went with a roommate of mine who is Italian, blonde, has blue eyes, and comes from an Italian family. She has all the guarantees. So, when we went together to the real estate agent kept speaking only to her and not to me, even if we had to rent together and the contract would be in both of our names. But the owner continued to only talk to her. I don't understand this. I also have to pay the rent, just like her. I also have to pay the deposit, just like her.
Once you tell them you're from India, maybe they'll think he's not going to pay his rent. Maybe he's not going to pay it in time. Maybe he's going to break some things. Maybe he's going to leave before paying the rent.
And some may face discrimination in a much more direct and overt manner.
So people say, I want to rent my house only to great people.
Sometimes housing providers demand excessive guarantee documents from people with migratory backgrounds, which is often unrealistic.
When I turned to the real estate agent, the question was always the same. What kind of job do you do? How long have you been here in Italy? Show us your pay slips, your documents.
So I think I knew that he never wanted me at that place interviewing for the apartment. It was like an interview. How much do you study? How much do you earn? I said, I don't earn anything, but you have to send your salary slip. How do I get your salary slip? I have the scholarship, but I can't give you any salary slip. So it ended up being very weird, the interview. But I knew like one of the reasons he asked me this question was because in the first place, he never wanted to rent me that place.
Sometimes individuals may face certain treatments or even encounter scams.
When you come here, you have to give advance money, which is kapara. Before moving out, we talked about kapara, and the landlord changed his tone of talking. Now he started messaging in Italian and he was messaging for 6 months in English. But he said that he won't give the kapara back, which is a lot of money. So we had a fight, and in the conversation, then he came home. He was like, you need to leave the house right now. I'm gonna call the police. Then I was like, I'm not leaving the house until the contract ends, or either I call the police. So we made our teacher talk to him, but the situation was really bad. So we had to like back off. He had to back off. We never got the money back. So I went to one of my friends that night, the other night, because I had no place to live. And eventually I lived there for next 4 months. That's how it all started. It took me like around 1 year to settle back again, to find a good place.
So the agency, they show us a really nice photo of the property close to the children's school. And we were so in rush. So I look at the photos and say, oh, that's the nice property. I really want this. No problem. Let's do it right now. My husband was at work. So I was like the one who was in charge for finding property. I didn't see the flat because someone was living there at this moment. So they said like the end of this week, they should vacate the property. So it will be yours. And then my husband's boss stepped up and said, please don't do this before you actually see property. So they agreed on the meeting at the property. We went there. And the picture that I saw was completely, absolutely different from the photographs that we were shown.
While we were like messaging people on Facebook, there were a lot of scams. He like, give me 200 euros, I will block the place. But like there is no such house like that.
At times, discrimination may not be the primary obstacle to securing housing.
They ask for a lot of money. Center, not only for foreigners, also for locals, for everyone.
So, what is the first step in tackling such a complex issue of housing discrimination? Giulia Testa, project manager at the Mixed Migration Center Europe, emphasizes the importance of collecting data as the initial step in addressing housing discrimination.
And this is where data plays a crucial role. Housing discrimination is a complex and multifaceted issue, so the initial step in addressing it involves gaining a thorough understanding of the problem. This includes listening to the voices of those affected, consulting with key informants in the migration and housing sector, and collecting essential data and insights about the discrimination faced by people with a migratory background when seeking housing. There is a tremendous need for a better understanding of housing discrimination. Surprisingly enough, however, Europe-wide data is not available to analyze how many people experience discriminatory treatment when looking for a home and for what reasons, including discrimination based specifically on national ethnic origin. Additionally, while data on gender and age are systematically recorded in censuses as well as in other official services and administrative procedures, quantitative and qualitative data on ethnicity, nationality, disability, employment, or immigration status are rarely collected, or their samples are not large enough to allow for further breaking down of the data. However, intersectionality studies suggest that discrimination often happens on the basis of more than one ground as a barrier to accessing services and rights, including housing. Even less data is available to understand the motivations behind the procedure and the decisions adopted by landlords and by housing intermediaries, such as real estate agencies, when selecting tenants. Because private landlords and rental agencies are gatekeepers in access to housing, it is fundamental to also understand the reasons that can bring them to discriminatory actions. The European Network Against Racism has repeatedly highlighted the critical importance of reliable and comparable equality data for developing effective legislation and policies that combat discrimination and ensure equality, and to provide information on race and other categories that may intersect with race. In the absence of robust equality data, identifying and addressing the inequalities that exist becomes difficult. The Come Home project adopted a mixed methods approach for its research. Combining qualitative and quantitative data collection provides a better understanding of complex phenomena compared to using only one of these approaches. While quantitative data permits measuring occurrences and opinions, qualitative data provides additional details and nuance and allows to collect useful information from a smaller pool of respondents. For instance, Come Home survey data indicated that 58% of people with a migratory background interviewed in Turin, Thessaloniki, and Malta face discrimination while looking for housing, and that the main ground for this discrimination across all three locations was the interviewee's ethnicity. Qualitative data, on the other hand, told us that the housing gatekeepers are often more prejudiced against specific nationalities or heritages, rather than all people with a migratory background, and that their concerns are mainly related with their financial solvency and property upkeep. After gathering data and understanding the factors behind and dynamics of housing discrimination, the second step is to share this data and to use it to identify the most adequate tools and strategies to fight against it. In this process, evidence-based data also serves to raise awareness among several different actors who are involved. These actors range from the general public to housing gatekeepers, civil society, and the policymakers, who are ultimately responsible to bring about change at the legal and policy level.
Collecting data is a crucial first step in addressing housing discrimination. However, understanding housing discrimination is just the beginning of the process in addressing and combating it. Liat Rogel, housing expert from Fondazione Impact Housing, emphasizes that alongside data collection, it is important to investigate the measures other global actors have implemented to address this issue in order to tackle housing discrimination effectively. She suggests we take inspiration from these actions, learn from their experiences, and understand what might work best in our context. As we've seen in this episode, addressing housing discrimination needs a comprehensive approach. In the upcoming episodes, we'll further explore the issue by examining it from different perspectives. Stay tuned for our next episode titled Diverse Backgrounds, Varied Struggles, the factors impacting individuals with a migratory background's access to housing. If you found our discussion interesting, follow us or visit Come Home's LinkedIn page. We are partners from 3 European cities and countries, Italy, Greece, and Malta, working together to address housing discrimination in our respective cities. And this is the Opening the Door podcast.